Win big in 2025 with Team Sync from RotoBaller. Import your fantasy teams and sync your leagues. Get customized tools and tailored advice for your specific rosters and scoring settings, including live recommendations from the live draft assistant, free agent finder, and lineup optimizer. Sync an unlimited amount of NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL fantasy teams from all of the major fantasy platforms. Get a discount for any premium pass using my promo code Knuckler. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio and start rotoballing like a boss. This podcast is also brought to you by Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. Use my referral code RotoBrady. Get that sweet, sweet deposit bonus. They got paid contests coming to a state near you, giving out boosts and bonuses, slashing lines all day long. Check out those player prop DFS contests. It's a real fun platform over there. Folks, follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBradyMMA. Follow me on YouTube at Tap That MMA Podcast. We don't have much combat sports action this week. Everybody's taking a break for Thanksgiving and whatnot. A lot of stuff coming up the week after that. So follow me everywhere for picks on all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what's important this week. And because there's no UFC this week, trying to get in some interlude episodes. And with me this evening, this guy is a 2-1 amateur heavyweight fighting out of Amelia, Ohio with Team G-Force MMA. He is 26 years old and he's racked up 3 fights on the Ohio amateur scene since September of 2024. Get up for PJ, Propane, Simmons. PJ, thank you so much for being here. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going good, man. Like I said, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a good little journey so far. I ain't been on the scene long, like you said. It's only been a little over a year, but it's been fun, man.
I mean, like especially when you're 2-1 with your 2 wins coming by first and second round knockout slash TKO. So first off, PJ, you're 26. What was your athletic background prior to coming into mixed martial arts?
So I always played sports like my whole life, football, stuff like that. Younger, growing up, you know what I mean? And then high school, wrestled a little bit in high school, played football and stuff like that. And I remember buddy of mine, Jake Cools, he used to take me to the MMA gym in high school to kind of help out with wrestling. And I love the boxing and stuff like that. So I ended up just kind of getting into it like that. But yeah, I was always in sports and stuff like that. So always an athletic kid.
What are like some things that you like early in your career so far that with someone in an athletic background of football and wrestling, so important distinction. But, football players obviously have a lot of athletic advantages in MMA. They're large people. They have this quick, 3 to 5 second explosive ability of power and speed. But at the same time, we've seen top tier athletes like Greg Hardy, gassing out because of those same traits within, a few minutes of the first round. So, what are some adjustments you've found yourself making as an athlete, with that being your background?
Um, I've had to work a lot more on like cardio and things like that, muscular endurance, football, stuff like that. It's kind of like you said, quick bursts, 3 to 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, you know what I mean? Most plays in football, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So like had to, definitely work on taking my time and working on cardio and stuff like that so I can be explosive for, the full round, the full fight, be prepared for stuff like that. So, yeah, definitely working on cardio, a lot of cardio, stuff like that, a lot of strength training.
Physique wise, because you've weighed in a couple of different numbers here, like a year plus. Um, and you're also somebody who, like, I think in a grander scheme of things would benefit, like, maybe from a cruiserweight division if that exists
Mhm.
in MMA. But like what are you trying to get your actual like body and physique to? Because I know like 2 fights ago, I think you weighed in at like 241. I think the last
Mhm.
was like 230 pounds. And like,
Mhm.
yeah, for heavyweight, I think like smaller heavyweights would have plenty of advantages, but at the same time, like that's a hard division to be giving up, 10, 20, 30 pounds to people.
For sure. For sure. So definitely the plan is to get to 205, man. I'm really working towards getting down to 205. But it's just really I gotta buckle down, and right now I'm still learning, still being fresh on the scene and stuff like that. But like you said, man, the smaller heavyweights getting up, in the pros and stuff like that, man, they got some monsters, man. So yeah, 205 is definitely the goal, more realistic, like you said, for me being only about 6 foot, um, and around like 230, 235 right now. I think 205 is definitely reachable within the next year. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that, man. I think I'll do well. I think I'll have a lot of power, be really explosive, and I think my size will be perfect for like the 205 weight class.
Yeah, and like I've had Julius Juicebox Walker on this show, who's had a couple fights in the UFC so far. And
Mhm.
that dude's a middleweight that had also won several regional heavyweight titles, like weighing in at like 215, 220 pounds. And
Yeah.
he played basketball in college, I think like either junior college or D3. But it's like the heavyweight division is so weird where you could be 206 pounds at heavyweight, 207, and you could be fighting someone who's 266. Yet, if you have athleticism and agility and just a little bit of a gas tank, that could be
Mhm.
enough to absolutely plow through a list of regional heavyweights.
For sure, man. For sure. Like you said, it is really weird. You find those guys that are like, just they got it. They're there, and then you see those guys that are kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean? Heavyweight, you don't really see a lot of guys in between. Like it's either you see those studs, bro, or they're just like, they either those monsters, or there's the guys that are like, they got it, but they gas out kind of early. I've never really seen it in between. But I know my second fight, that opponent, Logan Vega, he's tough. He was really tough, and he pushes a heavy pace. It was a good fight, but it went all 3 rounds, lost by decision. But it was a tough fight. He's a tough dude. It was a good fight for sure. He's another heavyweight to be on the lookout for.
Oh yeah, he's 3-0. It's all, mostly in Ohio, like I believe the Youngstown area. I'm seeing the word penguin a lot in the fight like events that he's been in. And like yourself, he weighed in, I think, for his last fight at 238 pounds. So it here's the thing. The way MMA divisions are set up right now doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I like how Canadian promotions do a little bit more like a few more like boxing kind of divisions in there, like 160 pounds. There's cruiserweight.
Mhm.
That stuff should exist. That makes a ton of sense. And
For
especially
sure.
for where the heavyweight division is in MMA right now, top to bottom. Like this is a weird time to be a heavyweight. So,
Yeah.
like, they look at people like Matt Adams, who's going to be, I believe, in Ohio Combat League on an upcoming event. There's so many
Mhm.
of these dudes that, like, they're like contender series kind of borderline dudes. Like if you saw them lose on like a PFL prelim event, like that
Mhm.
you'd see them there. And it's a period of time where like you can like get a call to like the contender series for a PFL event, whatever it is, by
Mhm.
just being better than like a handful of dudes that aren't that good in your area. And it's why the contender series, we've seen so many heavyweight prospects come through there, and the vast majority of them have fallen flat in their climb into the top 15.
Yeah, quickly too. Quickly, man. For sure. It's strange, man. You really gotta have it all with the heavyweights, man. You get in there with those taller guys, you gotta have the strength to be able to, work some levers, take them down. You gotta have the striking to be able to either get in or stay out. And it's a lot, man, especially when if you don't have the gas tank, like you said, that's what gets a lot of guys. And you know, I'm guilty of it myself. You know what I mean? I got to work on my gas tank. I haven't really been in a fight where I've, been beat to because I gassed out much. I would kind of say that Logan Vega fight, I was definitely more tired toward the end of that third round, and I think that definitely played a role. But like I said, I just gotta work on cardio, make sure that doesn't happen again. But yeah, man, the heavyweight division, I'm excited. I haven't really seen a lot of heavyweight fights around my area. You know what I mean? Being that I'm one of the heavyweight fighters, I've seen a few guys fight, but I haven't really seen any heavyweights around here that's like, that one, that the guy you need to watch out for. I haven't really seen one yet. I'm hoping to be that guy soon, so you know,
It,
hoping
it,
to be that guy.
it's like you said, like there's a few dudes that are like kind of there. Uh,
Mhm.
and there's a handful of those in Ohio. And then there's the dudes that are kind of just like traveling main event acts. Like they go to a bunch of different places, like the dudes who kind of are in the region of Pennsylvania and Ohio and Indiana. And there's those Midwestern corn-fed states where there's some big dudes that are traveling around. That's kind of
Yeah,
what I meant by like Matt Adams. And I believe there's a dude like named Mark Curry or something like that who like has like kind of does the same thing. Like you go, you like compete for like the Synergy FC heavyweight title, you either win
hmm
or lose it, you kind of move on to the next one or whatever it is. So like in your amateur debut, September 2024 at Empire Fight Series, second round TKO two,
hmm
just about a month ago when you won by first round knockout against Brady Moore, about a 10-minute walk from my house here, in
hmm
Newport, Kentucky. What are the differences you have seen here? So, two kind of similar results, but what differences have you seen in yourself in the little over a year since your amateur debut and your last fight?
Um, I've I've gotten a lot more comfortable just being in there, the ring experience and stuff like that, learning how to stay calm under pressure. Um, the first fight was kind of like the icebreaker, you know what I mean? I've trained it for a while since I was younger, maybe about 15. So I kind of always was in and out of the gym, not consistently, but just, here and there I'd pop in for a couple weeks. So I've always had the background to be comfortable when I finally started. And yeah, man, I'm comfortable. I've gotten a lot more comfortable. I think my striking and things like that. Um, my technique, my form has gotten a lot cleaner. Still needs work, but I'm starting to look a lot better in there. Footwork, things like that, cardio. So yeah, man, all around, I really feel a lot better, just a lot more comfortable and learning a lot more. So I'm confident on the ground, being taken down. My second fight, I was taken down, second and third round, but I was comfortable, didn't panic and things like that. So I think that played a huge role. I was never taken down in the first fight, so that was new, but I think I've learned a lot and learned to be patient. I learned to be patient.
So, like, is it mainly your stand-up game that you're kind of focusing on moving forward as the areas of improvement?
Really, I feel like my stand up is better than ground game, but I wouldn't say I'm bad in either area. I definitely need work in both. I'm more striking dominant, more striking heavy. So I would say I need to work on kicks a lot more, incorporating kicks into my game a lot. That's one thing I need to work on a lot. I don't throw a lot of kicks.
Especially in the heavyweight division. I mean, like you can really do some work on some of those bigger dudes that, let's be honest, maybe aren't in like the best shape sometimes. If just by chopping at the legs, they can only take so much of that.
hmm Absolutely, man. And I think that will be a big part of my success in my game once I start incorporating those a lot more. So I've definitely been training those so I can, start to use those and have some more weapons in the arsenal for sure.
And like it's again with heavyweight, or even if it was light heavyweight, it's tough because like you want to work on, your jujitsu and grappling as much as possible. But the fact is,
Mhm.
you are not looking to get put on your back in any of these fights. You're an athletic dude with wrestling experience. There's going to be really big heavyweights that, have some athleticism or their own wrestling experience of different degrees. So it's like one thing that almost every heavyweight is going to do is be throwing heavy punches, and so you got to get good at that at some point. You got to be able to participate in those exchanges.
Mhm. And I think that like me starting, because like a lot when I was younger, I was already wrestling in high school, so I never really focused on jujitsu. It was like when I started, I mainly was stand up striking and stuff in the gyms. So most of my background in the MMA gyms from when I was younger was all stand up and striking. So I'm very comfortable, on my feet, standing up. I think, I move comfortably and things like that. Um, I'm comfortable in the fire, trading heavy punches. I'm good with sticking and moving and things like that. Still need to work on, not dropping hands here and there, but that all comes with time, and I got plenty of time to perfect that. Not plenty, but we got enough time that we put in enough work that we'll get it under control, get everything together.
And so now you have fought for three different promotions as an amateur. Live MMA at Penguin City 9, which is like technically through Made Men Promotions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Empire Fight Series was the first one. Most recently, Ohio Combat League. Now, I love OCL. They have a lot of events, like I said, like a 10-minute walk from where I am here in Newport.
Hmm.
I love the venue that they have those events at. And Ohio Combat League, especially the last like handful of months, has become a place that a lot of Ohio's top prospects are fighting. They put on good shows, and it's very high quality, events that are taking place. What differences have you kind of seen between fighting it for three different promotions in a year, like between those different groups?
Um, I've seen like the caliber of fighters. I've definitely noticed, like you said, with Ohio Combat League, they got a lot of those higher end, top prospect type fighters, fighting. So, um, Maidman Promotions, up there, Penguin City, Youngstown. That was a pretty nice promotion. You know what I mean? It was cool. That one was outside actually, where we fought. We fought outside, so that was new to me. You know what I mean? But it was cool. I enjoyed it, man. Um, that there was a lot of good guys there. I remember seeing a couple of the fights as I was like, warming up, getting ready and stuff. And there was some, pretty skillful guys up there. A lot of guys to look out for. Empire. A few of the guys that fought at my first fight fought with Ohio Combat League, and they got fights coming up with Ohio Combat League also. So Empire had, some pretty high caliber fighters also. You know what I mean? It was definitely, I think that was the perfect, like, show to have my debut fight at. It was like the perfect level for me. And I think that, as I progress, I'm trying to take things, as they come. So I'm not really looking to jump on the highest stage right now. I'm just, taking it as it comes. And I think Ohio Combat League right now is perfect. I love it there, man. Like you said, pretty professional, real nice. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, those shows are a lot of fun to go to. That venue in particular is great for like standing and actually watching the fights the whole time. And it's funny because you see like up on that railing at Megacorp Pavilion, there's just like team just stacked up on the railing, all watching. And then, like by the main event, sometimes those Ohio Combat League shows or, like any regional show half of the people that were there are gone because so many people come to support a specific person. But so
That.
those venues, those shows that Ohio Combat League does are fantastic. And
Mhm.
like, has it been a challenge for you over the last year to actually get an opponent at heavyweight in Ohio? Because there's only so many dudes above 210 pounds in the state of
Mhm.
Ohio that are still competing in a sport and took up MMA,
Mhm.
aren't doing something else. So has that been a challenge to find people consistently?
It wasn't until this last fight, my most recent fight, I actually had two opponents pull out. Um, the first opponent pulled out maybe like a week before the fight, and then the second opponent took it So we had that, lined up one day. The next day, they said they couldn't get a hold of him, so we're looking for a new opponent. So that's how I ended up fighting Brady Moore. So it's definitely looking like the more we move up, the harder it'll be. But like I said, man, I take them as they come. You know what I mean? I have great coaches, great team. So, they're only gonna set something up that makes sense. And not that I'm ducking any fights or anything like that. We put in the work, so we're always ready to go. But they're always gonna make sure we're making the best decisions. You know what I mean? So we haven't had any trouble thus far, though. Like I said, besides those two guys pulling out.
Right, because it was supposed to be Big Mo Diakate before, and that's that dude's out of Powell MMA in Cincinnati. Uh,
Mm,
I mean, like when it comes to availability for fights, we've seen a lot of guys on the Contender Series where like you are situated for this, where you're 6 foot tall. If you're able to get your like weight where you're trying to get it, that could be something
mhm.
you could do middleweight. You could hop like and do a 190-pound catch weight. You could do light head. You could get up to 215 pounds for a late notice fight. Like that seems to be like at least at that stage of people's career, that seems to be like if that's something they can physically do, then it's great for being able to get a fight whenever you want it.
Right, right. Like, I definitely think that that would be my better interest, like you said, because then you got a lot of flexibility right around that range. If you got to go up a little bit, and like you said, do a 215 catch weight or 190 or something like that. And I've heard a lot of people say that, like, man, you could probably make middleweight. And I'm like, I don't know, but they're like, yeah, let's get you to 205 first, and we'll see if you can make middleweight. But I've always been a bigger dude, man. I've probably been 200 pounds since I was like a freshman in high school, to be honest. I was shorter then, but I've always been a bigger dude, and I kind of like grown into my frame and learned how to use, my weight and be athletic with this size. So I think like staying 200, right around 200, 205 would be like perfect and I'd be comfortable. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So you are with Team G Force located in Cincinnati. There's not a ton of information on Tapology about a lot of the people there. And so, like, tell me about the culture of Team G Force and how that has kind of shaped you as a fighter up to this point.
So Team G-Force, man, is everything, to me when it comes to fighting, because that's really where I started at, and really, that's where I started at. A lot of guys, Jeff Mack, Cody Gableman, those are actually our coaches right now, but they're pro fighters. Um, Coach Ron Gableman, it's his gym, Team G-Force. He's the starter, founder of Team G-Force. There's a lot of professional fighters that came out of G-Force, Charlie Stanford. Um, so they've got a great, background, great history. Always had a great team, tough fighters. And I think that starting there when they had that, they had a big group of guys that were all like pro fighters, a lot of, pretty, highly skilled amateurs and stuff like that, back around the 2015 through 2017 time frame. And yeah, man, that was around the time, I was in there starting. So getting that experience with those guys at a young age definitely helped shape me now. And then, now having those two pro fighters as coaches, they can give you a lot of experience from being in there, you know what I mean? They can give you a lot of help, a lot of different, things to add to your skill set just from having that experience and being in there.
And that, like, I'm looking at Cody Gableman's record, amateur and pro, and the type of work that he put in from 2012 to like a handful of years ago, he
Hmm.
fought so many promotions of this region that are long forgotten, like Turf Wars, Absolute Action, Hard Rock MMA, that's still around, but then Absolute Action and Premier. Like so
Yeah.
many, all within an hour and a half that I don't think
Mhm.
exist anymore.
Yep.
So it tells you a lot about Cody Gableman to take a look through his professional and amateur track record. Uh,
Yep.
So,
Him
PJ,
and Jeff Mack also. Jeff Mack, they always fought together, so they probably got the same amount of fights, if not very close. You know what I mean? So they're both, they're Cody's a dog though, man. They're both some dogs. They love to fight, and you know what I mean. They're good at it.
is it how is it as a heavyweight to even like to train? Like, how many training partners are you able to get in that are, around the size of people you're going to be fighting?
So that's been um I wouldn't say tough, but can be challenging sometimes. So we got a good handful of partners, a good two or three that I can work with on a daily basis. And when I can't, we try to focus on, making the best out of, what we have. So, if we got a lot of smaller guys in, then we're gonna work on speed and cardio and staying moving and trying to push their pace, which helps me in the long run with cardio, trying to move and, you know, footwork and slipping punches and things like that, just from a smaller guy, having that speed and that, those twitchy movements, you got to be real fast with those smaller guys. So it definitely helps develop the speed and cardio side of things. So we make use of, everybody that we have in the gym for sure.
Because I go to Carlson Gracie NKY here in Newport. And when I think of people trying to find heavyweight training partners, like I look at some of the biggest, best, like young fighters in our gym, and it's like, how is that dude making 170 pounds in his next fight? Like, my God, how big. Like, I think it would surprise people, like how big a heavyweight actually is.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, you were able to fight three times in the last 14 months. Uh,
Mhm.
Ended up with a 2-1 record, coming off of a win right now. When are you looking to fight next? Do you have anybody in mind, or is it seriously, whoever signs on the dotted line? And then what are your goals here for the next 365 days?
So yeah, as far as fighting my next fight, we don't really have any plans as of right now. I believe we may have something actually lined up for January, January 24th with a OCL, Ohio Combat League. So that could possibly be it. Right now, I'm still between, if I can make 205 by then comfortably, because I'm sure I can make it, but I want to do it comfortably and still, be healthy and feel comfortable, still feel strong and things like that. So it all just depends on how it's looking, where I'm at weight wise. Either way, I'll fight. Just as far as an opponent, really don't know um, weight wise where I'll be at around then. I'm hoping to be at least 215, around the 215 range. Um, and as far as like a person in mind, man, I really don't. I don't I don't look for people. I just, if we find a fight, they're like, hey, we got this guy. If he's ready, let's do it. You know what I mean? I don't want to take any like easy fights that I know I'm gonna walk through. Like I'm past that point for sure now, having three fights. So I want to start taking some, more challenging fights and things like that, just to test me so I can learn. That's, my plan as far as the next year is just to learn as much as I can while I'm an amateur. um, I'm 26. I'll be 27 in August of this coming year. So I want to learn as much as I can now and hopefully be ready to go pro by the end of next year. Um, Hopefully this time next year, I'll be either pro or turning pro.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, folks, this has been another interlude episode of. You were buffering there for a second. It took your face a while to catch up to your words. I think we're back now.
Yep, yep, yep,
Yep,
yep.
there we go. Okay. Folks, this has been another interlude episode of Rotoballer's official MMA podcast. Tap that again. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. Follow the podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Getting back to a bunch of business as usual next week when a bunch of, combat sports events are kind of starting back up. And folks, tonight with me, I had PJ Propane Simmons, 2-1 amateur heavyweight out of the state of Ohio. Keep an eye on him in the next year and in the years to come. And PJ, thank you so much for being with me here tonight. This was very fun and very enlightening as to the state of the heavyweight division in the state of Ohio. And if you have anything that you want to say, any of your social media accounts, anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Shout out to all the guys at Team G Force. We got another heavyweight, pro heavyweight, Quentin Campbell, getting ready to fight. Actually next weekend, December 6th, with AFP Promotions. So be on the lookout for that. Caleb Smith, we got a lot of guys in there, man. So yeah, be on the lookout for those Team G Force guys, man. Appreciate you having me, man. And hopefully I'll be back on here with you soon.
For sure, man. Well, folks, thank you very much for listening. We got more interlude episodes in the works, so stay tuned for that stuff. Have yourselves a great week. Enjoy your Thanksgivings and all that business, and peace.